Okay, guys, we're going to go through JD Vance's speech in Munich last week. Stay with me. We're going to have the clips as well as Donald Trump's response at the end. So, an incredible speech. He basically said it to their face. They're too multicultural, and their issue isn't Russia. Their issue isn't China. Their issue is the internal immigrants. And on that day, literally the day before, on that day, there was a car ramming attack in Munich that killed a woman and her child and injured 20 others. Now, what did they start with? Obviously the usual car attack, car runs over people. Okay, that was chucked out. Then it was migrant chucks out. Oh, where did he come from? Poland, this migrant? Did he come from Ukraine? Oh no, he came from Afghanistan. Okay, so he's an Afghan migrant that did a car ramming attack. Not being charged for terrorism. Not being charged for terrorism. Why? Because, oh, well, he's got no real motive. He's Afghan. You know what the motive is. The motive is Islam. It's just, you got to be serious here. And this is the point that everyone, even JD Vance, couldn't express clearly. It is not a migration issue. It is not an illegal migration issue. It is an Islam issue. If you were invaded by... The UK was invaded for 20 years by Poles and Romanians and all these people, Polki Sklep. That's how the UK was. Honestly, not really an issue. I mean, when everyone was a bit annoyed about it, but really they were okay. Really they were okay. If you're going to put it into context, they were fine. It's an Islam issue. They're the ones that cause terrorism. They're the ones that go straight on benefits. They're the ones that bring in all their family also to go on benefits, to go into the mosques and create these enclosed society of radicalization. That is the issue. That has to be clear. It is not a migration issue. It is not an illegal immigration issue. It is not a Russia issue, external factors. It is simply an Islam issue into Europe. Now, until that gets through people's heads, and until people can express that in the UK, he also mentioned, what was his point? That there's no freedom of speech. That you cannot express that now. That's the whole problem, because they can't now. Now all the parties in, like Labour is only in because of the Muslim vote. So they can't allow you to speak about that. They have to silence free speech, because otherwise you're going to lose them their votes. And that is what's been happening. 300 people in the UK last year jailed for online speech. Jailed, guys. This is not arrested, because there's been thousands of those. We're talking jailed. That's insane. Okay? Thousands of people arrested or given a non-crime, hate crime, whatever they call it, but actually jailed. It's got to Stalin levels in the UK. It's got to tyrannical levels in the UK. And there's no sign things are going to get back. And that is what's happening. In Germany, also the free speech has been curtailed. What's he done? Vance went and visited the head of the AfD. He refused to see the German chancellor. Couldn't give a damn. Couldn't give a damn. He wants to see the only person who's going to deal with this. That is real leadership. And Scolds is offended. They want to cancel the AfD. They want to shut them down. This is what they do. They've arrested some of their leaders. This is what they do. It's to silence people. And that was his speech. So let's go and have a look at it. And then right afterwards is Trump's response.
We gather at this conference, of course, to discuss security. And normally we mean threats to our external security. I see many great military leaders gathered here today. But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security and believes that we can come to a reasonable settlement between Russia and Ukraine, and we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, the threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
Vice President Vance's speech to the conference has ruffled quite a few feathers in Europe.
What did he say to ruffle them?
He was talking about the freedom of speech and migration in Europe. Do you believe that European leaders have a fundamentally different view of the walls than this administration's?
Well, I heard his speech. You're talking about JD's speech, right?
Yes, sir.
I heard his speech, and he talked about freedom of speech, and I think it's true in Europe. They're losing their wonderful right of freedom of speech. I see it. I mean, I thought he made a very good speech, actually, a very brilliant speech. And Europe has to be careful. And he talked about immigration. And Europe has a big immigration problem. Just take a look at what's happened with crime. Take a look at what's happening in various parts of Europe. I thought his speech was very well received, actually. I've heard very good remarks.